Hello, welcome back to Molo and Lave Wargaming. This is War in the Pacific Admirals Edition, play-by-email campaign playing as Japan, and we're setting up the January 8th, 1942 turn right now. Where we left off, we had a kind of lackluster day. Weather was hampering our operations pretty much everywhere. In Singapore in particular, we got a lot of bombers over the target, but we did very little damage to either their ships in port and to the airbase. We also had relatively disappointing strikes in Luzon. That said, we managed to capture Davao. We managed to keep the enemy armored and artillery units from doing any damage. That open space next to Manila and Clark. I keep forgetting its name. Cantabon, maybe? In any case, due to no small part because of our bombers there, we have not suffered an attack and an overrun, and we'll be able to overrun those enemy units ourselves fairly shortly, I'd say within a day or two. Looking over the numbers from last turn, we did have a modest point gain. Just kind of looking over this chart real quick, it looks like it came from a bit of an edge in air losses. Really nothing happened as far as ships go. There's not a whole lot of army losses, so it looks like that mostly came from capturing Davao, plus the enemy air losses. Air losses are a little bit interesting. On our side, we did okay. It was a bad day to be a zero pilot, as for some reason we had a lot of air-to-air losses due to buffaloes. You don't normally see buffaloes shooting down zeros, but for whatever reason it happened. That said, we still did a fairly good job keeping them off our bombers, with just one bomber lost to air-to-air combat. So even though the fighters were getting through to the bombers, it wasn't very many fighters getting through to the bombers, so they didn't do a lot of damage. On the Allied side, and here's what's really interesting, we're getting credit for 13 P-40 Bravos, 7 to ops, and 6 air-to-air. We had absolutely no enemy P-40Bs in air-to-air combat, period, unless you want to count the AVG models, which are listed, separately as H-81s. So where did those come from? My best guess is that when we took Davao and we achieved these 7 operational losses of record, as the combat reports commonly do, the actual number of losses is much higher than what's indicated in the reports. And I think the excess appeared as air-to-air losses, and maybe the reason they appeared as air-to-air losses was because most of the damage that these planes sustained that caused them to be grounded was sustained in air-to-air combat. Best guess. Don't really know. Other than that, other than these 15 operational losses, many of which were the result of being overrun on the ground, the Allies didn't do too bad. We got one Blenheim on the ground. I think that was in Singapore. Who cares? And they took moderate losses to their Buffaloes while they were shooting down our Zeros. They had like 5 Buffaloes to 7 Zeros. It's just sad. And plus, we got one of the AVGs, and that was actually attributed to an operational loss, so we don't even know for sure that was because of us. Ships sunk, basically nothing. Very uneventful in those terms. Yeah, harbor defense motor launches, these are nothing boats. Coastal mine sweepers are somewhat valuable because of what they do. They're not valuable in terms of points. Probably the most noteworthy anti-ship incident was the depth charging of an enemy submarine off the Malayan coast. that submarine was reported with heavy damage, so it may be disabled. During the turn, I speculated that submarine might have been previously damaged. I do believe it was previously damaged by aircraft because we have ops reports claiming hits. But in terms of damaging enemy submarines through depth charging, I was probably confusing that with depth charging a submarine off Miri in Brunei probably 2 days ago, 2 game days ago, which is probably about a week in real time at this point. But I mean, here we have reports of 2 submarines being hit, including a Dutch sub. I strongly suspect it's the right kind of aircraft. We are flying Key 30 ANs off the Malayan coast, so that's probably what that was. Alright, looking around the map, we're sustaining our anti-sub operations against these 7 known enemy submarines outside Tokyo. We're still not getting a lot of hits, but the enemy isn't getting any hits either. This has been a completely nothing deployment for them, so might as well keep it up. Our anti-submarine skill is increasing quite a bit. We're moving much better pilots into these units. You can see the only one below 60 in this unit is the commander. And that's becoming more typical all over the place. Moving to China, we're reinforcing the soldier presence in this hex, so hopefully we can take that on. Wenchao, we're just going to kind of wait and see. We've got additional units approaching. Maybe we're going to have enough to take it, maybe we won't. Overall, I'd say right now China is becoming a little bit of a waiting game. We need to be really careful that we're not the next ones to make a mistake, because the enemy's concentrating forces in a lot of areas. We've already known about this stack in Wuchang. They've concentrated more forces just outside, and they're headed to consolidate. These forces have been weakened a bit. I'm sure that this includes units that have taken losses on the other side of the river. However, we really got to keep an eye on it. For the moment, we have more. They don't have enough. They're not going to overcome level 4, soon to be level 5 forts, along with over 1,000 AV defending there anytime soon. It is something to keep in mind. So with that in mind, this extra brigade down here is headed back to Nanchang. We're going to defend. I'm going to go ahead and attack these guys again, just because they're on a major road. So I can get in, cause casualties, get out quickly. But units engaging enemy areas in this area may soon be needed to defend Wuchang, so I don't want to get committed too deep. Near Shenyang, I'm moving a few more troops in here. I'm still not seeing any indicator that this unit is moving, and come to think of it, just to be really sure about that, let's make sure we have constant surveillance on them. But basically, we need a little bit more here before we can reliably attack in this hex. So I'm moving about 400 more AV into the hex, so we'll see how that goes. We have a damaged unit that took camp on our rail line, and we have a Naval Guard unit that's going to take care of that. Around this Kaifeng area, we're just holding steady. We weren't able to dislodge this enemy unit last turn, and we're accepting that. They've got a foothold, 9 units here, nearly 50,000 troops, another 43,000 troops here, and these bases aren't exactly poorly defended either. There's a whole lot of troops here. So like I said, we kind of want to make sure that we don't get too aggressive and make a mistake here. The game's very biased in terms of defense for land warfare. So let's let them attack. Let's let them attack our well-defended bases with high fortification levels and hopefully with troop concentrations there in time. Because the last thing I want to do is open myself up to being defeated in detail because I'm just going after whoever. Meanwhile, while that's going on, we're still advancing towards Lanshao. Not a whole lot of enemy units detected here at Kuncheng. I don't know who's here, but the trend seems to be that they don't have that much defending back here. Cyan has, that looks like mostly support units. It's a lot of troops, but very few guns, very few armored vehicles. So I don't think that's very well defended. And we're getting close. So if this unit punches through and takes Cyan, we've already taken Nanyang. Nobody's supplying these guys anymore then. That cuts them off completely. Now, they do have a little bit of light industry here, 31, so it's not like they're going to be completely starving, but that isn't a lot, especially now when you've got probably 200,000 troops here total. Yeah. So these guys are going to start hurting soon. And another thing to keep in mind is that these are not the most defensible hexes, so when I decide to start bombing these guys, the amount of damage that they take, and if I decide to go after base facilities like the air base, they're going to be taking a lot of hits, and those hits are going to suck supply. So this isn't where I would want to defend if I were the Chinese, especially since I have so many units already across the river and able to attack from land and not do the river shock attacks. Speaking of shock attacks, I had been planning on moving these forces over here, over the river, to attack these units that had camped up on this minor road. Because the main enemy stack in the area has moved out of the mountains and onto our rail line, that river crossing is temporarily aborted. We're going after these guys as they are the higher priority target. Got 482 AV here, including 154 guns, and we've got another 116 AV and armor following that up. So it looks like we're much stronger than whoever this is. I don't expect that this enemy unit, with even with 4 nominal units there, I don't expect them to be stronger than 1 full corps. Of course, we'll see. So I think that's going to do it in China. Let's make sure I gave these guys attack orders. I did. Some good news around Rangoon. We do not have any naval contacts here anymore. With any luck, hopefully that means we'll be getting strikes on Rangoon's port itself. I'm a little disappointed that I did not leave one of these units on recon for Rangoon specifically, because we don't have any current recon, so we don't know if there's anyone in the port. So a bit of an error on my part there. Especially since we don't have troop numbers anymore. I have a second submarine that's going to be working its way up here. Actually, I already have. Oh yeah, that's who I was talking about. So there's a second submarine arriving. This one has a torpedo room full of mines. So we're going to mine that hex. Maybe a little late for that, because the torpedo bombers are adequately deterring further reinforcement, but whatever. I don't think I have anything better to use those mines for at the moment. Malaya, things are going pretty well. We will probably capture Malacca today. We've got 2 regiments ready to attack, and they're going to be supported by 2/3 of that AN squadron that was otherwise on ASW duty. 1/3 of the AN squadron has remained in Singora for ASW. For the most part, I'm giving my bombers a break this turn. I still have Nels on naval strike orders. I think I left these Nels on port strike orders too. Yeah. So at most, we'll be having one Nell squadron from Kuching do a port strike on Singapore. Other than that, I'm giving my bombers, or really more specifically, giving my fighters that would otherwise be escorting them a break. I've been complaining a lot that their fighters are walking right past my fighters and getting to the bombers. I suspect the in-game reason for that is high pilot fatigue on my side. So, time to decrease op tempo a little bit. Let's get that fatigue down. And also, I mentioned during the turn that a lot of it's going to be weather dependent. So, it's rainy. It's going to be rainy today. So the bombers aren't going to get great results anyways. So I'm resting a bunch of fighter squadrons. A few Oscar squadrons will be sweeping. And then, as I mentioned, we'll still do the port strikes with the Nels, because there's at least a chance the Nels might equip those 800 kilogram armor piercing bombs, without which we aren't really going to hurt the ships that we're prioritizing here. It seems like almost every ship that we actually attack in port is either the Prince of Wales or the Repulse. Not that I don't mind hitting them, but there's very little point to hitting them with the 250 kilogram bombs that simply aren't getting through the armor. I'm going to go ahead and try and attack in Kendari, mostly because I'm just not very impressed with the enemy unit here. Maybe a little risky. I've ordered this cruiser squadron to bombard. We're also getting air support out of Ambon, so that mitigates the risk a little bit. I've moved an additional recon squadron down from Luzon into Manado. I'm leaving them on random search for now, but we've now got 3 recon squadrons that are going to be visiting in on all these bases just to make sure that, the enemy carriers aren't secretly hiding anywhere. Like, at this point, I'm probably better than 95% sure that they sank. But I still want to keep an eye out just in case until I get confirmation. It's a bit of really good news. Carrier Division 2 got all the way to the Makassar Strait without being detected. That really surprises me, since I expect enemy search planes to be operating out of these bases, certainly out of Makassar, maybe even here. I mean, it's kind of crappy as the Dutch Air Force is. They're not crappy in terms of search planes, including medium bombers that can be used as search planes. They're probably best used as search planes because they can't hit ships in the bomber role. So I expect to be seen, but I haven't been. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. We're going to keep working our way towards Surabaya with the potential for a strike here. We've got really good coverage for all but the center of the Java Sea at the moment. We've been seeing enemy ships hanging out around here. Maybe they stick around, maybe they don't. But for now, basically the plan's just going to wait and see a little bit. We don't know when we're going to get detected, and when we do, that might be our cue to make a move. And then what move we make will depend on what we see. Like right now, we really don't have any contacts at all, except over around Palembang. These guys are basically nothing. These guys are basically nothing. And then a few ships that look like they might be valuable in Palembang. Everywhere else, they're basically gone. Yeah. And then, of course, what would be really fun, and actually would suggest that this course isn't the best, that maybe we should just go right through the Java Sea. We could use a little carrier support over Singapore, so maybe look for that to happen, and we'll say 2 more days from now is probably about right, given the distance they would need to travel. Because the Kates don't seem to have any problem carrying the 800 kilogram bombs. So Yeah, my first priority for Carrier Division 2 is to find the active fleets. Since we know there are cruiser fleets hanging out around here, or at least that's where they last were. Are they still there? Who knows? Maybe they think they're going to come in here and ruin stuff. But they're running out of ocean to hide in. Not too much going on in the Philippines. We did take Davao. Davao has a garrison requirement, so we can't move these tanks just yet. I'm expecting that once we take care of some of these army units running around on Mindanao, we could start making sense of who's garrisoning what to free up those tanks to go to Balikpapan. Up north, right now we're waiting on these tanks. I could put them in move mode and make this in a day, but I don't want them to arrive in move mode, so at least one more day, maybe two. Carrier Division 1 is about to arrive at Truck. Truck's really hard at work with two repair tenders, really trying to repair ships right now. I've loaded up one of these amphibious groups with troops for Tulagi. This will be while Carrier Division 3 is passing by, so we'll have support from them. Plus we've got more amphibious ships on the way to Rabaul to distribute some of these troops. We have 2 construction companies present. 3, oh no, yeah, no, I was right the first time. 2 construction companies present in Rabaul. So we're getting to work on airfield construction. So good news there. And I think other than that, it's really quiet and there isn't too much to talk about. Yeah, we had a lot of false contacts last turn. There really isn't much going on anywhere, in spite of all the seeming detections that we had. Not really anything of any significance. Alright, so I'll tie that off there. We'll see you for the combat replay. Thanks for watching. Combat replay for January 8th, now in progress. Looks like we managed a pretty quiet overnight phase. Usually get submarine combat or something like that. Alright, so we've got an American submarine poking around on the Marshalls. There isn't too much we can do about that right now. Traffic at Surabaya all of a sudden. So the trend seems to be that they're not really using many fighters to defend Singapore anymore, which is kind of interesting. few fighters that they have seem to be doing a pretty good job shooting down zeros. Now, once again, we're not carrying the larger bombs, and we don't seem to be interested in hitting any of these other ships in port. Apparently we have been cap-trapped in Surabaya. There are escorts assigned here, but I don't necessarily know that Surabaya is in zero range from, what is it, Kuching? So, probably not worth the exchange here. We lose 8 Betties air to air, a 9th to flak, and for all that, we're at most going to sink a single tanker. These enemy units at Cabantuan are taking a pounding. Not bad here. 3 combat squads disabled. This unit's been giving us a little bit of trouble. So seeing them taking significant damage is a good sign. Nice. 80 casualties. Not bad for the mountains. Whew, 213. Seems pointless. So I'm not sure who this is. Clearly plenty of cruisers in this group. Unfortunately, we're striking at extreme range, so our Kates don't have torpedoes. We get 3 bomb hits on the heavy cruiser San Francisco. Not too bad. Yeah, I don't know what these guys are doing here. Hopefully we get a little bit of revenge for the Betties that were shot down earlier here. The demons do not have the opportunity to shoot down unescorted bombers. They have to face a whole lot of zeros. So, having gotten through, we're not seeing a whole lot of valuable ships here. I do like picking off minesweepers, but not all that great. Good news is both ships are confirmed sunk. Blocking force on the road to Lanchow has surrendered both remaining units. Most of the enemy forces defending Butuan are already broken. So no big surprises here that they buckled right away. Alright, another major step towards Rangoon completed. Decent enemy casualties along with the units surrendering. We are suffering fatigue with these lead units. So, first attack on Kandari goes almost nowhere. We did reduce fortifications. Yeah, that wasn't a really good attack. We got more reinforcements on the way, so we'll just hold off and wait for them. Alright, so consistent with the new format, I'm going to end it there, and we can do the post-turn analysis with the setup for the January 9th turn. Just before I sign off, I do want to point out these 5 apparent ships at Tulagi, so more than the 2 cruisers that we spotted during our strike on the Solomons. And we also have a strange sighting here. Just random guys over in the Philippines, so I'm not sure who these guys are or where they came from. They're very much in my territory. So with that, yeah, we're going to end it here. We'll see you back for the January 9th setup. Thanks for watching.